Alright, hey guys, it's Hunter again, writing today to discuss the current issues with Hamas and the Israeli government, and student reactions on my campus that I don't think are very intelligent. This is an op-ed I wrote that I'm going to read you, and it's titled Beyond Jew Bashing, The Real Antisemitism on UC Campuses. It seems that every year there's a flare-up in Israel. Hamas, Hezbollah, or some other party launches rockets at civilians, and the Israeli Defense Force responds with tactical military strikes that result in heavy civilian casualties. The entire situation is totally unacceptable, and the heaviest body count is always on the side of Palestinians. Often, children bear the brunt of the offensive. It would seem on the surface that Israel is acting as a militant state with a brazen and vicious disregard for the sanctity of human life. But, as with most everything in the Middle East, it's a whole lot more complicated. As you've no doubt seen, ultra-left-wing groups on campus, as well as Palestinian liberation clubs who are actually far right-wing reactionaries, have yet again decided to assault the student body with half-truths, emotional appeals, and outright lies. The Israeli people are not evil. And while many of the government's policies, such as their tendency to fly fighter jets at extremely low levels in order to shatter glass in Palestinian homes, are aberrant, Israel does in fact carry the higher moral higher ground here. Unfortunately, fascist groups such as Hamas do everything in their power to tilt the discussion and make it look as though Israel is villainous. But if you know a bit of history, most of the anti-Israel sentiment breaks down and shows what it really is: equivocation, logical fallacy, and willfully flawed thinking. And, all too often, simple anti-Jewish rhetoric. First, a bit of history. Israel exists today because of Harry S. Truman. In his last days in office, he pushed for the U.S. support of the Israeli state, which had, until this point, been fairly unpopular, Holocaust and all. At the same time, Palestinian people were offered land that today makes up Jordan. From the very beginning, it was a two-state solution with shared control of Jerusalem. But the five Arab nations surrounding Israel told the Palestinians instead to flee to refugee camps while they attacked the new Jewish state on the day that it was officially founded. Obviously, Israel won this war, and every war that followed. Eventually, and with time, the Israeli government gained strategic defensive outposts, such as the Golan Heights. In the meantime, the Arab nations that had once promised the Palestinians all of Israel now ignored the refugees and refused them citizenship. Consequently, the Palestinians remained trapped, people without a nation. The desperate situation galvanized the refugees and caused them to cling to weapons and, in many cases, violent interpretations of the Quran. Israel long ago accepted the validity of a Palestinian state and has made great efforts to make peace. Former enemies like Egypt have also tried to help. Even this very afternoon, they agreed to be moderators in the discussion for a peace settlement. Israel has even given back land that it won in a defensive war. What other nation has ever done this? And furthermore, what other nation would ever face derision for not giving back quote-unquote enough land? Israel is being held to a separate standard. Nations have borders formed as a result of wars. Why is it that Israel is singled out for protest because of this? Frankly, any U.S. citizen who protests Israel's borders should be more than prepared and more than happy to give up his or her home to a Native American. Israel has suffered more bombings than Britain during World War II. Britain responded with firebombing Dresden, killing 250,000 civilians. Israel is not disproportionately cruel, contrary to popular belief. In fact, by historical standards, they're incredibly gentle. Its military gives away tactical positions. It tells the enemy when and where they'll be attacked. The military takes great care to avoid injuring Arab civilians. Arab civilians, putting Israeli citizens at risk to minimize Palestinian civilian casualties. So why the so-called collateral damage? Ever heard of a human target? Well, you've heard of human targets. Ever heard of a human shield? Hamas kills Palestinian civilians, pure and simple. They launch rockets from schoolyards, hide terrorist leaders behind women and children, build houses around their weapons depots. The leadership does everything it can to maximize collateral damage, so that people who are not willing to look deeply will see only the body count and assume that Israel is the aggressor. Israel is not the aggressor. Hamas disregards the 3rd and 4th articles of the Geneva Convention. They attack only civilians, and then they hide behind children, daring Israel to defend itself. Yes, it is unacceptable for Israel to have created a blockade that traps Palestinians without food or medical care, and that wall needs to come down. But at the same time, it is very telling that Hamas seems to have plenty of funding for smuggling rockets, but none for smuggling food or medical equipment. And the Palestinian civilians continue to pay the price. The worst part is, this is not even a conflict between Israel and Hamas. This, as with Vietnam, is a proxy war. It is a battle between forces led by the US and forces led by Syria. To blame Israel is to ignore the problem. It's easy to blame the Jews, co-opting terminology like Holocaust, pogrom, and ghetto in an effort to prove a point. But it's still counterproductive. If any of these groups protesting with chalk on the sidewalks of our campuses actually wanted peace, they would protest the crimes of Hamas along with the crimes of the Jewish government in Israel. Their actions are anti-Semitic in the truest of senses, as both sides are Semites. To blame only one is to be part of the problem. And if you choose to do so, it's you who's to blame.